Fans know him for his hot takes and big personality on ESPN's First Take, but in his new book, Straight Shooter, a memoir of second chances and first takes, Stephen A. Smith opens up about his childhood, a dream playing basketball cut short, and finding his passion in sports reporting. Stephen A. Smith in the house, ladies and gentlemen.
It's good to see you. How you doing?
So good to have you here. Let's start with Mom. You talk about how she worked 2 jobs, supporting 6 kids, and her strong influence on you. Just give us a sense of her fingerprints on your life.
Everything. She's the greatest woman I've ever known, and she's the one person on the planet that I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt loved me unconditionally. And so everything that I do, every day that I walk this earth is in an effort to make her proud and to make her proud of the fact that I kind of followed the path that she wanted me to follow. You know, it's one thing to be successful, but to go from getting left back in the 4th grade to becoming a successful journalist, that's a bit different. And so she had a lot to do with that, her unwavering faith in me, her belief in me, her tireless efforts for me, the manner in which she held me accountable. All of those things came into play, and to know what she had to endure in order to do those things just made me revere her that much more.
And you talk, I want to quote here that you write that your mom told you, own what you say and do, stand on it, even if the fallout is something that is not in your favor. Your book is obviously entitled Straight Shooter. Tell us about why those qualities are so essential for you. Well,
because, you know, first of all, the title of the book, Straight Shooter, is a dedication to her, because that's the kind of person that she was. She minced few words, and she let you know exactly where she stood and why. But when you bring up the words that you just brought up, my mother was a firm believer. As private as she was, and as much as she didn't want people knowing her business, she was very, very big on, if you were going to open your mouth, speak your truth. Therefore, you're not a prisoner to somebody else's interpretation of things. You know what you said, you know what you've articulated, you know what you stand on and why, and that's for other people to decide and contemplate whether they want to live with that or not, as opposed to you harboring that energy inside of yourself, or harnessing that energy inside of yourself where it serves to bring you down because you're expending a bit too much energy worried about what everybody else is going to think, instead of letting it out and letting them worry about your truths.
When you talk about pursuing your passion, some people use, and perhaps fairly in some cases, a learning disability as a reason they can't achieve, right? You talk about growing up undiagnosed dyslexia. What was it about, maybe it was Mom again, but that made you overcome that?
Well, it's a combination of Mom, definitely, but my dad was a motivating force in his own different kind of way, because he didn't believe in me at all. Kids just minutes earlier were in the neighborhood laughing at me. I remember their name. I remember their faces. They told me I wouldn't be able to be a journalist. I pulled it off. They told me I'd never become a columnist. I pulled it off. They told me I would never make it on television. I pulled it off. And I've been the star of the #1 sports morning show for 11 consecutive years. And by the way, I've got plans in the future as well that I'm going for, because I don't look at anybody's stop sign that they place in front of me. I create my own stop signs.
You talk about one thing that you promise to your viewers is that you're going to be your authentic Stephen A. Smith, right? You stand by your words. I am curious, because you do get into, with some pretty great detail, the moment where Ayesha Curry had tweeted about how the game was rigged and whatever, and you kind of went in a little bit about her and made the comparison between her and LeBron James's wife, and people told you they didn't like that.
Right.
Are there ever moments like that, for example, that you say, I was authentic, but maybe I wasn't right, or maybe I would take it back, or I would say it differently?
Several times in my career where, you know, my issue is, and you know what, the more serious one was the Ray Rice scandal. With Ayesha Curry, it was simply, what I regretted most was that people thought it was a gender issue with me. And my thought was, I should have made sure to say, Hillary Rodham Clinton's running for president. If Bill Clinton got into some trouble, man, you got to protect your wife. You can't jeopardize her aspirations.
It's about the loved one.
It's about the loved one, right? But I didn't clarify. I wasn't clear enough. And Laura Gentili, who was a marvelous executive at ESPN, running ESPNW, she made the point, well, Stephen, you know what? There's 2 men on the air talking about how a woman should act. You don't think that would be something that's uncomfortable? And I was like, Never thought about it that way. Because as a black person, if I saw two white folks talking about what black people should do and how black people should feel, I would have a problem with it. So I definitely understood that. I understood the same thing with the whole Shohei Ohtani situation, how I didn't clarify my thoughts about a foreigner who's a Major League Baseball player being marketed by Major League Baseball. It's my job to articulate my thoughts clearly enough so there is no ambiguity. I didn't do a good enough job there. And so that's really, those are the kind of things that you're talking about. And that's where, yeah, I could look at it and say, I could have done this or that better, but my intent,
right,
I believe, was honorable, and I stand on that.
There are so many times, in particular in recent years, where you have sports and politics and race intersect. And quite often, viewers look to you for your perspective, your take, speaking really on behalf of the black community in, in some cases, a lot of pressure, certainly. Wondering if you view that as a blessing, a burden, both?
Both. It's a blessing because the reality of the situation is when you look at the history of the black community, on far too many occasions we've lamented the fact that we didn't have a big enough bullhorn. We didn't have a big enough voice because we weren't giving that platform. So certainly on far many occasions, too many of us have been able to have that kind of complaint. So the fact that I have that platform available to me now is definitely a privilege that I don't take lightly.
Before we let you go, of course, we're right in the middle of the NFL playoffs.
Yeah.
Can I get a little hot take from you? Obviously, Dallas Cowboys, your favorite team.
Oh, Lord.
Right? They won last night.
Yeah.
Who's your pick?
Well, props to the Dallas Cowboys, because I certainly thought that Tom Brady would find a way to escape with a victory. He did not. He was awful. That particular night, I still think he's one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, but last night was clearly not his shining moment. Having said that, I expect the Dallas Cowboys to lose to the San Francisco 49ers this weekend. I expect the Philadelphia Eagles to beat the Giants. I expect San Francisco and Philadelphia to meet in the NFC Championship game for the right to go to the Super Bowl. If Jalen Hurts is healthy, I think Philadelphia should have a slight edge. If he is compromised in any way, San Francisco goes to the Super Bowl. I think it comes down to Kansas City against San Francisco in all likelihood, and we'll see what happens then. Maybe I'll come back on to give my prediction, but I'm not going to give it now.
As a girl from South Jersey, I was waiting for the Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly.
They got a chance. Hey. They got a chance. They got a chance.
Stephen A. Smith, we thank you so much. Want to let our viewers know that your book, Straight Shooter, Memoir of Second Chances and First Takes, is available now wherever books are sold.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.